So today the plan was to do like a February wrap-up kind of a video, but I was looking at all of the books that I finished in February and I just don't feel like talking about it. Like, I don't feel like talking about them at this point. So I guess we're not gonna do that today because I legitimately don't feel like it. Suffice it to say, of the books I read in February, I've started making progress on my Goodreads Want to Read project. I have finally started actually moving on that, more so than just like looking at things and dismissing them out of hand, which I also did a little bit in January and a little bit in February, but like, we actually read some things off of the list. And I will talk about them, I'm just not going to talk about them today. Because today I would rather talk about something I loved, and I didn't love anything that I read in February. So buckle in, friends, we're going to talk about The Long Way to a Small Angry Planet by Becky Chambers. So right off the bat, I'm going to tell you that this got 5 out of 5 stars. This was beautiful and amazing and wonderful and awesome. Great, end of the video. That's, just go read it, yeah? What more do you need? Welcome my laptop to the party. Really lighting me from underneath. I'm sure that's flattering. Oh god. The reason that this book is a 5 out of 5 star for me is manifold, which is why we're making a video about it. It is, I think, on the largest, biggest level, the reason that this book is so successful and does so well for me is that it really follows through on what it promises, and it gives you, there's so many great payoffs to the things that have been set up the whole time. I admit, when I started reading this book, it was a slow, it was slow to get into, it was slow to start. There was a lot of things that needed to be built and created and maintained in order to get to the ending that we got, but by the time we got there, my God, had Becky Chambers earned it. Like, it was beautiful. It was amazing. I'm getting excited just thinking about it. Before I get too far into this, I should probably tell you what the book is about. Our story is thus. In the far, far future, the universe is far larger and more complicated than we have ever imagined it to be. The powers that be in the government have decided they want to build a wormhole from one side of space to the other side of space. Problem is, the other side of space doesn't have technology yet that can do that, so they have to drag the technology the long way, from the end of space that has the technology to the end of space that does not have the technology, i.e. the long way to a small, angry planet. Our cast of characters is essentially the crew of the spaceship that has been hired to drag the thing from one side of the universe to the other side of the universe. To put it simply, our main characters are the crew of the Wayfinder who have been hired to drag these wormhole technology pieces on the long way to the small angry planet where they want the other end of the wormhole to go. We follow their story for a year-long trip across the galaxy. Basically, a road trip story in space. It's wonderful. It's a discussion of what it means to be human and what it means to be a person. It speaks to the universality of all different kinds of relationships. It's romantic and platonic and colleagues and co-workers and diplomatic relations. I just love everything about it. I love everything about the story. The found family trope is strong in this book. It's quite a slow burn overall. It's incredibly realistic in its representation of people and the way they interact in quite a small microcosm, but it was so... There wasn't a moment when I was reading it when I didn't believe that these characters were fully realized people. I fully believed in the 3D concept of every single character, no matter how minor. I fully believed that they were rooted in the world and nuanced and developed. Literally every single character. I cannot stress this enough. Every single one. Doesn't matter how throwaway the line or how small the part. Every character was developed. It was amazing. How many times can I say amazing? How many times can I call this book beautiful and wonderful? I think because of the level of nuance, there is quite a slow start to this book, which I mentioned before. It did take quite a while to get everything built up and to get those relationships really earned and created, honestly. And to get us introduced to the relationships in meaningful ways. Because of that, my reading experience of this book, I started it last fall. I read approximately the first third or so, and then I picked it up again a couple months later and I breezed through the last 2/3 because by that point I had gotten attached to all of the characters and just breezed through the rest of it. Like, the plot picked up, the emotional investment picked up, right? Like, essentially, I put it down when I was getting through the setup part of this, and I think the setup takes quite a long time because, again, Becky Chambers is working to earn the payoffs that she gives us at the end, and she does. They're so good, everything is set up so well. I can't handle this. I cannot handle how beautiful this book is. And again, I don't think that this, I don't think the slower start is necessarily a bad or a negative for the book. That's maybe like a me thing personally. I find that, especially when it comes to speculative fiction, it's a little bit par for the course. The author needs a little bit longer to set up the rules of the universe, right? Like, if we're talking sci-fi or fantasy, any side of the speculative coin, the author has to set up what is physically possible in the world with magic or science, because we can't assume that we, as the reader, know what that is. Oh boy. And so I feel like it's kind of par, honestly, to have a sci-fi book take a little bit longer at the start. The thing that I thought was really beautiful about this, like, longer start, because yes, it's introducing us to the literal galaxy worth of races and cultures and politics and things like that we, you know, it is completely speculative. It's introducing us to all of that. But at the same time, it's masterful because it's also setting up character relationships and it's also setting up emotional plots and things like that, like, concurrently, and all of that is happening at the same time, which is usually, right, like, that's how stories work, but, like, in this instance, it's so good. So anyway, I give the slow start a pass because, you know, again, I feel like it's kind of par for the course in some respects. And with that, I almost forgot to say, like, part of the reason that I expected it, and because it's par, and because I'm like giving it a pass for that, is because this author is also setting up, like, 7 or 8 main characters and viewpoint characters and, like, people that we need to, like, know and care about, right? Like, the crew of the ship, even if it's a small ship, even if it's a small crew, is not, like, only 3 people. And so there was a lot that needed to get set up there. And so it takes a little bit longer, and I think that that was acceptable because of the ending and because of the payoff. And, like, I would argue that directly because the author takes so long to set up everything and to weave all of these nuanced character relationships and political and cultural relationships and introduce us to all of the pieces of the world and all of the things that are going on there, that only serves to heighten the emotional connection to the characters, so that when the more dramatic and climactic actions happen at the end, you are that much more invested and that much more involved. And it's just, it's a moment of somebody really understanding how to make setup and payoff work. It's beautiful. It's beautiful. By the time I got to the end of the book, I had, like, in the last 50 pages, I cried, like, 3 different times for 3 different emotions, which is a lot. That's a lot, in terms of emotional reaction from a book. I think, if we're being honest here, a book gets 5 stars from me if it can make me cry, and this book made me cry 3 times, so, like, I I can't give something 5 stars 3 times, right? But I can't give something 8 out of 5 stars. But like, this book is amazing, you should read it. No spoilers, but the ending is amazing. Just amazing. I think it hits that perfect balance of bittersweet, right? It's not like an HEA happy ever after romance, like esque, like everything is perfect. It's not grimdark. It balances in the middle with trauma and hope and beauty. And I love it. I just love it. I can't wait to read the rest of the books in the series. I literally have the second one. I went out and bought it from my local independent bookstore like the week after I finished the first one. I haven't picked it up yet because I feel like I need to like get ready and be emotionally invested and all of that nonsense, but it's on my list and I am so pumped for it. Read some good books, preferably this one. Like, go read this one. Hope you have a nice day, evening, life, morning, whatever.